Hello, welcome to my channel. My name is Faceless, not Valueless. This channel is dedicated to validate survivors and victims of narcissistic abuse. Please join me by subscribing and liking my videos as I get out of narcissistic abuse myself. I am not a licensed counselor, therapist, or psychologist. I just want to help you in this journey. I hope everything that I put in this channel helps you, and remember that you are not crazy, you are not alone, you are loved and valued. Today I want to talk about grief and the narcissist. As I have explained in my other videos, my grandfather committed suicide when I was 11. It was a very traumatic experience. During this video, I will not be discussing a lot of what happened during that day, but just to talk about how the narcissist even controls your own grief process. I think this video is going to be shorter, but it's going to be effective nevertheless. So my grandfather died when I was 11, and I was completely shattered. It still hurts me till this day, but I have learned how to cope with it. And I have grown to be stronger, and it doesn't affect me like it used to before. It doesn't mean that it doesn't hurt. It still hurts. When my grandfather died, I went to his funeral, and I guess the shock of how he died and the fact that everyone in my family knew that he was struggling with depression really just made me feel very on edge and uncomfortable. I went to the funeral, and of course, like a child, I was 11, so I wasn't really understanding what was happening. But I fell into a very deep depression probably the month after that. And the narcissist father didn't let me go to his funeral. To the burial. Let me try to explain to you, I guess, my point of view during this type of situation. Of course, it's always hard for parents to decide what to expose their children to when it's this type of trauma, but I don't understand why I was allowed to go to my grandfather's funeral and not to his actual burial. Is that how you say it? Let me know in the comments if you know what I'm trying to say, because right now I am not sure. In my opinion, a funeral is way more traumatic than a burial. It's only my point of view. Everyone has their own point of view, which I do respect. But this is one of the things that I never understood. I was allowed to go to the funeral, but not to the burial. And so even after he died, I would get depressed, I would be sad, and I wouldn't understand why. Because when you are being abused and conditioned, brainwashed, dominated, manipulated, controlled, monitored, let's see what else I can say. When you're being wired and groomed and to behave a certain way, to act a certain way, it's even difficult for you to come to a silent place and understand and process your own emotions. And of course, I was going to school, and sometimes people who are depressed, they get bullied because people don't understand why are they sad. They're doing it for attention. I was going through a hard time, like a legitimate hard time. It was so hard that I thought I was going to die. And my friends understood that I was changing. My family members could see that, the few of them that really cared. But when it comes to my father, let's say like a year after what happened, I would still be grieving. And of course, let me try to say this in the most respectful manner. When someone passes away in a tragic way, the grieving process, it's going to be even more tragic than, say, someone passed away in their sleep or naturally. It's more tragic because you feel blame, you feel guilty. Oh, I could have prevented that. Or, oh, I could have talked to that person. Or if I would have done more. Or if I would have done something to let them know that they are respected and cared and loved and valued, then maybe none of this would have happened. This is something that a lot of people that have not experienced suicide grief don't understand. It's not minimizing the pain of losing someone. It's just, I don't know, I guess it's bigger. And in a different way, it's darker, because you start putting that blame on yourself. So not only are you processing the grief, you're also processing condemnation. You're condemning yourself. I should have done more. I should have done this. I should have done that. And not only that, you also have to deal with the shame. Because when someone dies in a tragic way like that, many people won't understand and will start saying things that they shouldn't about the family. And you hear that, and it gives you so much shame, because when you go to school, you don't want anyone to be talking about your family problems, And so when that happens, it's like the pain is almost threefold in many ways, because you're dealing with the shame, with the self-condemnation, and then you also have anger, and then you also have abandonment issues, because sometimes when someone ends their life that way, you feel like they are abandoning you. And in a way, I saw my grandfather as a father figure who would always be there for me, supporting me, helping me through times where I felt lonely or sad. And he was such a generous and kind man. And so I considered him as my second father, really. He sometimes treated me better than my own father. And I was completely shattered. I was very depressed and so angry. And all of this happening within an 11-year-old. You can only imagine how hard that is. And so after he died, I would say a year after that, or 2 years after that, sometimes I would get sad and I wouldn't understand, since you're conditioned not to understand your own feelings. Because you see, if you are allowed to understand your own feelings, then you will understand that the concept of shame, guilt, and obligation. So if you are exposed in the knowledge of understanding that what you feel is either shame or condemnation or guilt or other thing placed by another person, then you will come to the conclusion, without any other scientific evidence, that indeed you are being brainwashed, manipulated, and abused. And that's why the abuser wants you to forsake your feelings and forsake your critical thinking into understanding why you are feeling the way you are. Because if you do, then you will understand, okay, I'm feeling this way, and it's because this person has been brainwashing me. Therefore, I will start putting boundaries. I will start treating them differently. I will not interact with them as I did before. And that's exactly what narcissists don't want. They want your supply. They want your reaction. That's their supply. They want you to comply to the rules. They want you to make them the center of your life. So with that being said, because I wasn't even aware of my own emotions, I then finally, after thinking a lot, I'm so thankful that God gave me such introspection and willingness to understand who I am. Sometimes it's hard for people to really dig deep into themselves because they're too focused on what they don't like, what they don't see, rather than learning something new. And I am a learner. I am constantly learning. I love learning and I love studying. So when I studied myself, I realized that I was feeling sad because I missed someone, which, connects to grief, obviously. So in this case, when my father would ask me, why are you feeling bad? And I would tell them, because I miss grandpa. I love him and I miss him. And sometimes my dad would tell me, oh, you're still crying about that, or just get over it, or that happened a long time ago, or are you still thinking about that, or thinking like, oh, you're always shackled to your past, always dragging the past with you everywhere. When are you going to stop? The narcissist doesn't want you to grieve properly, because they're afraid that if you grieve properly the right way, with supportive friends, with the right tools, with the right way of expressing yourself, because what grieving does is it helps you get more in tune with your emotions, and it helps you understand how to control your emotions and how to be honest and how to be open, if done in a proper way. Anyways, they're scared of the grieving process because I think it's because of two things. Number one, the narcissist has never dealt with their own issues and emotional chaos. And so when they see another person so open and willing to talk about how they feel, about their grief process, about their own feelings, even if they're not grieving, they feel intimidated. They cannot control the fact that another person can be so open about how they feel. It's almost like they're jealous about the fact that you can be open and vulnerable and they cannot. And that's emotional overload for them. And I think the second reason is because they understand the power of emotions, and they use it, of course, by controlling you and putting shame and guilt on you, And so all of this shame and all of this stuff that's been put on you for years has been blinding you, and you cannot be in tune in your emotions. And so once something tragic happens, it's very hard not to give in into emotions. It's very hard not to ignore them. It's extremely hard. And so, yes, it's very hard for them to understand that you cannot bypass the fact that you need to express your feelings. It actually makes them go crazy. They actually dread tragic events because they know that if it happens, and because you're an empath, you're going to give in to process those emotions in a healthy way. And if you do, you will be discovering clues and discovering little things that will connect to other things that will lead you to the conclusion that you are being emotionally abused, which has nothing to do with the first point, which is grief. It has nothing to do with that. However, grief helps you so much understanding who you are and about emotions and about life, that when that happens, it's like they're like panic mode. Houston, we got a problem, like, oh no, the person I've been controlling is going to give into their emotions, so I have to train them not to, because if they do, then they won't follow what I tell them. You might have to listen to this video a couple of times to understand what I'm saying. It might be a little bit abstract by hearing it a first time, but once you hear it again and again, you'll be, hopefully you can resonate with it and connect little things and use it in your own life. If you have ever gone through suicide grief, please leave it in the comments below. Know that there is hope, that there are different ways where you can process your pain and you're not alone. I know it sucks. Hey, trust me, I know it sucks. And I will be making more videos about that in the future to help you guys understand that you're not alone and that you're not crazy and that you're loved and valued. Thank you for listening to me. Don't forget to subscribe, and thank you. Have a blessed day.